Welcome into the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary, and it's that magic time of year again. Here is the list, the top 10 albums of 2024. Like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, tell me you love it, tell me you hate it, tell me what records you would have included, which ones you would have removed. I want to hear everything from you guys in the comments. I'm just thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to do a list this year. Last year, at this time, I was on hiatus somewhere in Tiki Hell. And so I'm glad I'm no longer there. I'm pumped to be in the studio here with all of you, being able to deliver this list this year. And I'll say the one other thing: in the past, I've limited my list to albums that I've reviewed on the channel. Since I didn't do any coverage the first half of the year, I'm going to break that rule because there was a lot of good stuff that was released between January and June. And I want to have that opportunity to talk about it and mix it in with all of these phenomenal records. So without further ado, let's get started with number 10, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and Wild God. There are very few artists that have the ability to dive into the darker recesses of life's journey and distill the romanticism that is there. Nick Cave is one of those artists. His narratives are often unnerving and sometimes even disturbing, but it's one of the many noble and fine features of not just his music, but his entire body of art. This last decade has been extremely difficult for Nick personally. The loss of his son Arthur back in 2015 has been a big driving factor for his music. And it's not just overcoming the grief, it's about coming out on the other side. Wild God is a record that is rapturous, it's joyous. It's the music of a man who has made it through those difficult times and wants to celebrate the memory of the loved ones that are lost, but also enjoy and appreciate the time that is still left here. The last album, Ghosteen, put out in 2019, really was just a collaboration between him and Warren Ellis. So it's great to see the rest of the Bad Seeds back and involved on this project, and even a little appearance from Radiohead's Colin Greenwood helping out on bass. Key tracks on this album include Wild God and Cinnamon Horses. Coming in at number 9 is Mabe Fretti with Sentir Que No Sabes. The avant-garde cellist is my favorite musical discovery of 2024, and it's her abilities as a dual threat that make her so brilliant. She's masterful on her cello, but her talents as a singer rival those abilities. And it's the combination of the two that makes her sound truly groundbreaking and one of a kind. Her experimental style moves seamlessly between dream pop, jazz, classical music, and even a little bit of rock and roll, all while employing a number of different playing techniques, most notably the pizzicato technique. I love it when she makes that cello sound like a bass. Working with longtime collaborator Hector Tosta, the songs on Sentir Que No Sabes find more form and structure than any of her previous records. But that's not to say that these compositions aren't exciting and that they won't keep you on your toes. Her voice is jaw-dropping in its beauty as well. From the moment you hear it, it will captivate you and grab your attention. And it's the dissonance that's created between that beauty and the often chaotic nature of her music that is so unique and one of the best features about the compositions that she puts together. And it matches the thematic nature of the lyrics. Most of these songs explore the idea of life, its imperfections, its shortcomings, and learning to come to terms with all of that and be at peace. Key tracks on this record include Kravitz and Enfrente. Your 8th album on the list is MJ Lenderman with Manning Fireworks. The North Carolina singer-songwriter is another artist who excels at using the beauty of music to explore the raw, boorish side of life. His character studies on Manning Fireworks focus on men in their 20s and 30s, frustrated, anxious, isolated, and ironically, they're usually the architects of their own demise. His lyrics are witty, and at points even savagely brutal, But there's this feeling of sincerity throughout this record as well. This idea that confidence comes from within, that happiness usually comes about from taking a chance. And while those messages might seem trite, sometimes it's just nice to hear them from the right person in the right place. MJ Lenderman is that man with the confidence right now, and you can hear it in the music as well. Layers of incredible guitars that are raw, loose, and insouciant. I love the way that this record comes together like a combination of Warren Zevon and Neil Young. Key tracks on this record include She's Leaving You and Bark at the Moon. Number 7 on your list is Father John Misty with Mahashmashana. This is studio album number 6 for Josh Tillman under the moniker, and it finds the persona attached to it skyrocketing to this otherworldly, folkish stature. And it's all about the music. These songs are rich, expansive, and lush, and at moments even a little self-indulgent. 4 of the 8 have runtimes of 6 minutes or longer. But hell, it's Father John Misty. Isn't that kind of the point? Life is absurd and short, but sweet for certain. So enjoy the little things. It's one of the many perspectives that he harbors that I love. I love the way that he contemplates life, death, and everything in between in his music, with cynicism, but also with rapturous joy. This album might see him at his best from a lyrical standpoint, and his vocal performance is also worth noting. The music, teaming up with Drew Erickson and Jonathan Wilson, is exceptional as well. Combining that signature 70s rock and roll pop style, there's a little bit of disco and funk flair on some of these songs as well, with a lot of that classic pop instrumentation that he was working with on his last record, Chloe and the Next 20th Century. Remarkable record here. Key tracks include Screamland and I Guess Time Just Makes Fools of Us All. In at number 6 on your list is The Smile with Wall of Eyes. The Smile made sure that 2024 started with a bang for everyone, releasing the first of 2 records in Wall of Eyes. An honorable mention nod to Cutouts, it's a fantastic record, but Wall of Eyes is the more serene and subdued of the band's 3 records, and I think that's important for 2 reasons. The first is the way you're allowed to feel the tension build in these compositions. We are still talking about Tom York and his perspective on the world after all. Not to mention, the title Wall of Eyes is enough to just give me the creeps in and of itself. But these tracks are unnerving and often sinister, and I love the way that that is contrasted with the lighter elements, Johnny's unique guitar playing, and the orchestral arrangements that he brings to the table. Speaking of which, talking about the other instrumentation, the second big difference between The Smile and Radiohead are the different influences of jazz, bossa nova, funk, prog, branching out a little more in ways that Radiohead might not. I love to see these guys entertained by this project and driven to keep creating, and especially with Tom Skinner on the kit. He's a massive part of why these guys are so tight, and I love him. Key tracks on this record include Read the Room and Bending Hectic. Number 5 on your list belongs to Waxahachie with Tiger's Blood. Studio album number 6 for Katie Crutchfield under the moniker finds her capitalizing off of the success of 2020's St. Cloud, an album that saw her abandon her alternative indie rock and roll identity and embrace a more mellow, Americana-driven sound, and it suits her naturally. The change in music seems appropriate given all the personal changes she was going through at the time, most notably becoming sober. There's a feeling on that record of someone trying to find their footing, trying to pick up the pieces and wondering, where do I go from here? What does it all mean now that I've made it to this point? And I think that that's the starting point of Tiger's Blood. It's what I love about the record. An artist who has continued to grow in that time period and with a heightened sense of scrutiny. I think being sober definitely allows you to be more focused, more aware. She's writing songs that still feel personal and still have that razor sharp wit. She's quick to point the finger, but she is also quick to turn that finger on herself. And that's what I love about her writing. Teaming up with MJ Lenderman on this record, along with her band, these two sound phenomenal together. This is a collaboration that sounds like it's been working for decades. And so hopefully there's more of the two of them in the future. I love the way that her voice blends with his guitar and his vocal harmonies that he brings to the table as well. Signature tracks on this album include Evil Spawn and right back to it. Number 4 on your list is Tyler the Creator with Chromacopia. On the album's second track, Tyler raps biggest out the city after Kenny, that's a fact now. Even he admits that Kendrick Lamar is number 1 in the hip hop game currently, but I'd argue that Tyler made the better record this year in Chromacopia, and it has everything to do with him breaking down the walls and showing us who he truly is as a person. We all know that Tyler is prone to popping off and certainly not shy about sharing his feelings, especially in blunt fashion. But I think a lot of that is tied to early personas. He seems really laid back. He's got this oddball bravado that I think is more appealing. And on this record especially, he's writing about everyday life for people in their late 20s and early to mid 30s, topics that any listener in that age category and even outside of it can relate to. So what I love about this record is watching the sound that he has created throughout his catalog, all of those elements coming together. You have hip hop, soul, neo soul, funk, R&B, electronica, rock and roll. But with it, you see the death of the personas. And I love that Tyler is making music that's on more of a personal level. All of these songs act like vignettes of experiences in his adolescent life, teens, and into his 20s. The album is narrated by his mother, and I just love the sonic exploration that takes place on this record, and it's all due to him. Written, arranged, and produced by him. The man is absolutely incredible. So much fun listening to him explore different sonic landscapes, and now we get to enjoy him exploring more of himself. Key tracks include Sticky and Thought I Was Dead. Coming in at number 3 on this list is The Cure with Songs of a Lost World. It's been 16 years since The Cure's last full-length record, and Songs of a Lost World was well worth the wait. I think the biggest challenge for me personally in 2024 was not looking at any of the live performances that have been released of these songs. For you subscribers, you guys know that keeping the album experience self-contained is really important to me. And I think with this record, it's imperative. Songs of a Lost World is majestic. This album is beautiful and bleak. It's desolate, heartbreaking, but also majestic. Robert Smith just doing what he does, capturing the full scope of sadness the way only he can. His voice still sounds remarkable, and I think that this album features some of the best vocal melodies that he's performed in the last 25 years. Absent are the hooks and some of the signature riffs that The Cure are super well known for, but I love the ethereal warmth that you feel these songs just wrap you up in. Robert Smith, once again, probably the only artist out there that can comfort us in knowing that we're all resigned to the same fate. Key tracks on this record include Alone and End Song. The number 2 record on your list belongs to Leon Bridges with Leon. The Texas crooner makes it official with the title of his 4th record. Everybody wants to put him in a box, but he's here to tell you it's not going to happen. His sound isn't just R&B, it isn't just soul, it isn't just rock and roll. His sound is Leon. That is the genre. That is the confidence that he is playing with these days. And it makes for a captivating listening experience on this record, Leon. From the moment you drop the needle, this thing reels you in and just makes you feel like you're floating on air. Influences of soul and R&B for sure, but it's the dominant influences of country, folk, and Americana that make this record unique. My favorite, however, are the Latin influences. This thing is full of magnificent breezy guitar work, driven by sounds of flamenco, rumbia, cumbia, and it really reminds me of my hometown and the Southwest in general. And it makes sense given that this record is somewhat personal for Leon, focusing on his upbringing in Fort Worth. These compositions, they have a restrained production, and it's exceptional, bringing to light the quality of Leon's voice. This guy is one of a kind, up there in that tier with guys like Otis Redding and Sam Cooke. Key tracks on this record include When a Man Cries and Panther City. And that brings us to your number 1 record, which is Fontaine's DC with Romance. It's been truly impressive to witness the artistic growth of this Irish outfit over the last 5 years. and no other record in 2024 showcased the limitless potential of its creators the way that Romance did for Fontaine's DC. Produced by James Ford, this record finds the boys truly stepping outside of their comfort zone. Their first three records were very much inspired by their native Ireland, forming almost a sort of trio, so to speak. But when you become one of the biggest rock bands in the world, you usually get to tour around it. And this new album, Romance, is very much inspired by those travels, especially art scenes in Japan and Italy. This is an album where the boys have developed a futuristic dystopia where they explore the gut-wrenching dual nature of the subject at hand, romance. And a big part of the success of this album rides on the charm of Grian Chatton. His lyrics are phenomenal, but his lyric performance is all over the place in the best way possible. He's using different inflections in his voice, in his tone, hitting high notes, low notes, there's whispers, there's all different sorts of vocal experimentation that match what's going on with the music here. The music is still founded in this kind of folkish 80s new wave vibe. There's lots of breezy acoustic guitars that are at play that are very familiar. They remind me of bands like the Smiths, like Echo and the Moneymen. But these guys are also branching out into so much different territory, using different electronic elements, dipping into funk, dipping into hip hop a little bit, electronica. There's just a wide array of almost folk driven gothic music on this record. And the nuance make it such a different listening experience every single time that you throw it on. And I think that makes this the best record of the year and one that will truly make for an adventurous listening experience for years to come. Key tracks on this record include Romance and Favorite. And there it is. That is your top 10 albums of 2024. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. I hope you guys enjoy this list and checking out some of these records over the weekend. And I will be back at it with all of you to start the new year. I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and we'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.